morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on 10 steps to help yourself prepare for every presentation. And in my view, the preparation I do before an event such as today, workshops I was running last week, a keynote presentation I've got tomorrow, the preparation provides me with the baseline, the foundation on which my presentation goes. And the baseline determines whether I do well or whether I struggle. So welcome everyone. Peter Dew's my name. I'm a public speaking trainer and coach, and my passion is to help you effectively and confidently share your ideas, share your messages, make a difference to your communities and your team, your clients. So welcome everyone. Let's get underway. So 10 steps to help prepare for every presentation. How to participate today. As with all webinars, I ask you to ask questions, type them in the chat box as we go. Raise your hand if you want me to open up your microphone. Put comments in. Maybe you've seen an event where someone lacked preparation. They didn't do their planning. They didn't have a checklist. And maybe you know someone who is extraordinarily successful and they go through a routine before every presentation. Please take notes. I am recording this, so should I move too fast? Should you want to review any of the information, it's there for you available on the recording of this webinar, and think and apply it to your own circumstance. So think about a presentation you've got coming up in the future, a wedding speech, a workplace seminar, a team meeting, anything you're going to do to prepare just to take your effectiveness, your confidence another step up, and use today's checklist to see if there's anything that maybe you neglect or you could focus more attention on. So welcome. Why have a checklist? A couple of quotes I like to share with you. My personal philosophy is that the checklist, the preparation, checking I've got everything in place, lays the foundation, the building blocks of my presentation. And if I've covered everything off on my checklist, I can relax, I can calm down, and the chance of my presentation being a success has increased significantly. That's what it does for me in my business as a professional speaker, trainer, workshop planner, and facilitator. Robert Schuller said, spectacular performance is always preceded by spectacular preparation. So you know those people that do well at meetings, they always seem to have a response. Those people who always do well at job interviews, don't assume they're just winging it. Don't assume they're just going in cold and hoping they get it. It's probable they've done remarkable preparation in the background to get ready. And the checklist is how you do your preparation. And Sean Covey, son of Stephen Covey, we become what we repeatedly do. So the habit of doing a checklist before we present ensures that we do a good job, we control our nerves, and we have the impact on our audience, on your audiences that you want. So let's get started with my checklist. First thing, know your venue well. Familiarize yourself with the platform. Do you need to walk up some steps? How much depth is there in the room? How far do you have to pivot left and right? Is there a lectern? Is there a lectern in the middle of the room or off to the side of the room? If you want to turn the lighting down, do you know how to do that? What if the air conditioning is too cold, too hot? And as a presenter, I would ordinarily have my air conditioning set at 20 degrees. And this is on the chilly side, but it's if you put it at 22 or 24 degrees, people will fall asleep and they'll start to get into that relaxed, non-attentive zone. So 20 degrees is my preferred temperature for a room if I'm able to control it, or if I can tell the conference organizer, the venue, can I have my room set at 20 degrees? There's nothing worse than walking into a venue, to a seminar for the first time, and then trying to figure out, how am I going to do my presentation? Trying to work out, am I comfortable here? How far forward can I move on the stage? Can I use depth? Can I move back? Can I move left? Can I move right? I coach people sometimes with wedding speeches. And one of the things I ask them, so tell me about the venue. And they say, oh, I don't know about the venue. I've just been asked to be best man or bridesmaid at my wedding, and I've got to make a little speech. Yeah, but the venue, is it going to be a stage? Is it going to be a microphone? Is it going to have a lectern? Oh, I don't know about that. Now, you can dismiss this checklist if you keep training in the same room all the time. Sometimes when I work with the mining sector, they have their training room, and as a trainer, they're going to go in that room all the time. But even so, I would still want to check that the room is as I want it. Different trainers have been in on the days you're not training. They've rearranged the furniture. They've altered the lighting, and all of a sudden you think you're just going to walk in and deliver, and it's not how it used to be. So one of the things I do is arrive early to set up and get familiar with the room. I arrive early and I walk on the stage. So even with this webinar, I've been on since 8:45, 15 minutes beforehand, standing up, getting confident, practicing my deep breathing. Get familiar with the room. Any technical problems? Are there any issues you need to be aware of? Is a globe lighting, is a globe blowing? I've been to one seminar room where there was a flicker in the fluoro, and the fluoro was flickering away. And the venue organizer wasn't that concerned. Oh yeah, we'll get that changed. We'll get that changed after. No, I need to get that changed now, because the flickering fluoro can trigger someone who may have epilepsy, or someone who's not comfortable with flickering light. That can cause headaches, that can trigger migraines. And they weren't able to change it because the service technician wasn't coming in until later that day. So I was able to ask him to get a ladder, and I stood up on the ladder and I removed that fluoro. There was enough lighting for us to see. Arrive early, walk on the platform, get familiar, own the space, be comfortable with the venue you're training in. My philosophy, 60 minutes would be a minimum that I would arrive at a venue to set up, to get ready, to make myself familiar with the room. That gives me time to sort out problems. Just last week, I needed some flip chart. I'd organised flip chart when I arrived in the room, no flip chart. So I have to scramble, get some flip charts, and yeah, was able to do all that before people arrived. The beauty of arriving early is you've got all these things sorted out as the audience starts arriving. I'm sure we've all been in a room where, as we're sitting down, the presenter is still trying to sort out problems. Does anyone know how to, make PowerPoint work? Does anyone know how to control the temperature in the room? I'd like to turn the lights down. Does anyone know where the light switch is? This looks unprofessional, and to me would add to my nervousness and doesn't help you relax and do a great job. Arrive early to set up. Third thing that's really important that I do as part of my checklist is know my audience and their expectations. And there's several ways I can do this. I can do a pre-workshop survey. So I send out an email, I ask questions. What do you want? What's the biggest issue you're facing? What do you see the challenges facing your industry moving forward? If I could solve one problem around communication, around public speaking, what would that be? And before I start my workshop, before I start my seminar, I've got a really good idea, a really good list of what people's expectations are from me, the presenter. I think one of the mistakes that happen in workshops is that audiences come along and they expect this. That's their expectations. And the speaker delivers this. And there's a mismatch of expectations and communications. You want your message to gel and connect with the audience expectations. Sometimes I phone a few stakeholders. So what do you want? What would you like? What does a successful outcome look like for you? Do some other research. Use Google. Go to the company website. What's their vision? What's their mission? What's their values? What's happening in that industry? Do some industry research. What's happening in the financial planning industry? Artificial intelligence is creating quite a big threat to financial planners because much of the advice and the metrics for good financial planning can be determined by artificial intelligence. My own profession as a medical scientist, less and less medical scientists are required because everyone's doing their own rat tests at home. Everyone's doing their own pregnancy tests at home. Nurses are doing all the testing now with point of care testing. So the highly skilled, high quality result that a medical scientist had to deliver previously, that's been eroded because advances in technology. Know your audience expectations, do some research, phone a few key stakeholders, get prepared, check that off your list so that you really know that your message is going to match your audience's expectations. Make sure your AV equipment is working. Check the sound. Check your videos are streaming. One of the things that I find when I stream videos, sometimes when I hand over the thumb drive to the audio-visual person, the video is there, but the audio file is lost somewhere else. And often the audio file is a different file within PowerPoint. And as I hand over my PowerPoint slides, video runs, but no sound. So you really need to check this. Your internet connection. Do you need internet? Are you going to run with internet? Have you got a backup? You can bring your own mobile hotspot in case the conference or the venue internet drops out or doesn't work. Are you going to use a data projector? Make sure that it works. Do a test run. This is your checklist to test run. I've seen where the resolution of the screen or the size is too big for the screen and it goes outside. You need to check all that and resize your PowerPoint slides before. Sometimes I'm seeing flat screen TVs rather than data projectors and screens. So big panel, flat screen, LCD, plasma TV screens, and you plug your laptop in. But then if you have a pointer, a laser, the laser doesn't work on a plasma TV or any sort of TV. Do all this beforehand. Make sure your audio-visual equipment works. Do a microphone check. I always do a sound check before I do a Zoom call, before I do a webinar. Just make sure everything's working. Do you need a microphone? Don't arrive at the room and say, look, I don't need a microphone, thanks. And then say, right, just checking, can everyone hear me down the back? And then someone down the back says, sorry, I can't hear you. I saw this happen recently. I was at a seminar and the person was speaking, a bigger room than anticipated. And about 5 minutes in, the group down the back, which included me, said, hey, we can't hear you. And the response was, oh, I'll project my voice. So another 2 minutes goes. With that speaker projecting the voice, we still can't hear you. Then there's a scramble for the venue to set up the audio visual. They get the microphone, they plug it in. There's a bit of a noise going, background noise, tap, tap, tap. And finally, we get underway where we can hear down the back. Don't do that. That looks very unprofessional. For me as a speaker, I'd feel very nervous and I'd be quite embarrassed by that situation. So don't assume your voice carries to the back, especially with a room of 30, 40, 50 people. Small wedding of 50 people, we don't need a microphone. That's easy. It's just a small ballroom. And then 50 people across dinner, noise, I've had a few drinks, chatter, laughter. It may be that your voice that would ordinarily fill that room won't fill a room with 50 people at a wedding. This is the checklist you need. And how do you do that? Arrive early and be double sure. Have a backup plan for everything. These are my plan Bs. What if the power fails? I did some workshop in a mine site. I did a workshop at a mine site, and unbeknown to me, I've flown up to site. I've spent the night before. Unbeknown to me, 6 a.m. I'm setting up for a 7 a.m. start. There's a scheduled shutdown of the power plant for that particular venue where I'm training. So there's no power, no electricity. What do? Do I just say, look, sorry, and fly back to Perth? No, I'm able to pull up all the blinds. I've got my flip charts ready. And so I start presenting a workshop with no power about 11 a.m. And this is a one-day workshop. About 11 a.m. the power comes on and I'm able to go back, show any videos or PowerPoint slides that I think are important that I've missed out and stay on track. And nobody knows that I am affected by the power out because I've got my backup plan. What if the internet doesn't work? So you want to show a video. I also have videos on my laptop, so I can stream them from YouTube using the internet, or I can play them off my laptop. If there's no power, I've got about 7 hours battery life on my laptop. So while I can't data project or go to a plasma screen, I can have a group of people, a group of 10 or 15 looking around my laptop and show a video should I need to. This is a checklist to get ready for anything that could go wrong. What if too many people turn up? I was asked to do a presentation and there'd be about 10 to 12 people was the organiser's anticipation, the organiser's estimate. So I print 20 workbooks and I arrive at the venue nice and early, 1 hour before. I'm setting up, getting ready to go. 20 workbooks printed, tables arranged for 20 people. And all of a sudden, the organiser comes in and says, I do apologise, Peter, we've had a stronger response than anticipated. There's 85 people coming this evening. So I'm not going to use the workbooks. I don't have 85 workbooks. We quickly get some extra chairs and we move from round tables to theatre style and put 85 people in. I promise everyone a copy of the workbook in an electronic version, and that's my way of saving paper. So they don't have to frantically take notes because I have a workbook that covers everything I'm going to cover during this workshop. What would you do if too many people turn up? What would you do if you're expecting 20 and only 5 people turn up and you had some really great group dynamic exercises to do? And what if your time's cut short? As a professional speaker, I know the importance of sticking on time and honouring the speaker who's coming next. So what if someone speaks 15 minutes into your 45-minute slot? Do you just speak for 45 minutes and everyone goes to lunch 15 minutes late, or you then talk 15 minutes into the speaker after your presentation? What I do, what I teach, what I encourage is to be able to cut your time down, bring the meeting back on time, bring the seminar back on track. Still give the same message, have the same impact, but the ability to concertina your presentation down. I've also been at a presentation where the person before me was unable to turn up. And the organizer said, Peter, can you start early? And I'd love you to go for 60 minutes, not 45 minutes. And he asked the same thing of the speaker after me. So by me and the other speaker both stretching from 45 minutes to 60 minutes, we'd now covered that absent speaker. Tick your box. Can you go longer? Can you go shorter? What if the power goes out? What's your plan B? This is a checklist to have for every presentation, because here's what I can promise you. Things do not always go as planned. Things are not always smooth sailing. Another checklist, another item I have on my checklist is what's my follow-up plan? Offer a follow-up email, ask for feedback. My aim is to learn, to grow, to improve. I'd love your feedback from this webinar. Answer any questions that you took on notice. They're the difficult questions that you don't have the data for. Great question, great question. Let me find out and get back to you. If you take a question on notice, if you say, let me find out and I'll let you know, you need to do that. Otherwise, your credibility, your reliability will go down. And on my checklist, if I do need to take a question on notice, how do I get back to everyone in the room? How do I get to all 50 people? Because I've got one person's question and I'm going to find out the answer, but everyone else in the room may also be interested. So I would always get back to the organizer, the boss, the superintendent and say, here's Fred's question. Here's Susan's question. Can you share that with everyone who attended the workshop yesterday? And sometimes you provide additional resources. So this is a cheat sheet. By the way, I do have a tip sheet for your checklist. I have a more extensive checklist than the 10 things to do to help you prepare. Provide additional resources. Have you communicated effectively with your audience? This is letting people know well in advance. I've got an online seminar coming up on Wednesday. We did a reminder last week and I've just sent a reminder out now, getting people to log in early, what to bring along, what questions I'm going to ask them, so get them to think about. One question I often ask people is, if at a barbecue you were asked, what do you do when you meet someone for the first time? So what do you do, Peter? What do you do, Bill? What would you say in response? And those of you who've done some of my workshops in the past will know that that response is called your elevator pitch, also known as your elevator speech, that 30 seconds that lets people know exactly what you want. Provide a Google map to help them get there. Provide instructions for parking. One of the venues I work at, there's a train station right outside. So if people don't want to drive, they can hop off at Leederville train station and the venue is right there. Where to park. Parking options for those that want to drive, and even provide your parking on a Google map as well as the venue. And as always, ask people to arrive early. This is so I can meet and greet, say hello, get to know you a little bit before we start the presentation. Manage your energy. This is a checklist. Do you need a herbal tea? Do you need some water up front? I've just come back from 3 days speaking, 3 different workshops in a row, 7 hours a day talking in Port Hedland, and I have lozenges, honey lozenges, just to soothe the throat, because towards the end of each day, especially day 3, I get a bit of a crackle and a bit of a sore throat from overusing my vocal apparatus. Energy bars. My wife, who also presents, loves to have miso soup. So the miso soup hydrates her, but gives her that little bit of energy as well. And if you're really fatigued and you need a break or you lose your way, have a checklist, get your audience to do something. And 2 or 3 times during the 7 hours, I'll ask the people, all right, I'm going to stop for 5 minutes, turn to the person next to you and have a chat. What are the three biggest takeaways so far, and how will you use them going forward in your workplace? So that's about 2 minutes 50, 2 minutes 30 each. I'll get back to you in 5 minutes. They'll then start having that conversation. I've now got 5 minutes to recover, to check in my notes, to have a drink, to chew on an energy bar, to review my notes to see where I am in terms of the program. Manage your energy. Have a checklist. What do you need? Stay on time. I mentioned sometimes you need to be able to condense your content because you need to honour everyone in the room's time. If you're going to finish at 3, finish at 3. If there's a speaker coming on after you, don't talk into their time. Cut your content if you're running on time. And many people in the room like to know where they're going during the day. So I'll use a flip chart on the wall and I'll put an agenda for the day with times against that. I'll ask for a little bit of leeway in terms of flexibility for morning tea, for lunch, for afternoon tea. If lunch is being catered for, then I won't allow flexibility because the caterers are bringing out lunch or lunch is in the next room ready to go. So I will stay on time for lunch. I'll stay on time when I end, but I'll ask for a little bit of flexibility morning and afternoon tea. And finally, use your support materials. Have a checklist. What do you need? I sometimes hand out tip sheets. Sometimes I bring along one of my favorite books, Chip and Dan Heath, Made to Stick. Why do some messages stay forever and some messages become unstuck? This is how to be more influential. I mentioned I have flip charts, and when the power goes out, flip charts are my only resource. So clearly I have my pens, my own pens to write on the flip chart. Props, do you need to bring along a prop, piece of equipment, a PowerPoint slide that illustrates what you're trying to say? So my checklist. Know my venue well. I always arrive early, meet and greet, sort things out. Know the audience's expectations. I'll do an audit or I'll phone up a few people. Arrive early for the AV equipment. Make friends with the audio-visual person, the person that's controlling your slides, controlling your microphone. Have a backup plan for everything. Follow up with people afterwards. They'll appreciate it. Give them some extra resources. Let people know in advance the venue, the timing, what to bring along, any questions you want them to prepare. Communicate that well in advance. Manage your own energy, especially for a long day. Stay on time. And any support materials you want to bring along, handouts, flip charts, resources, props, my favorite books, I always have them up front with me to share the knowledge. Webinars coming up. 30-minute short sharp. Should I use notes when presenting? 22nd of August. Are you congruent? Is your body language, your persona, the actions you take congruent when public speaking? If not, your whole message can fall flat. And how do you speak to a large audience? Let's go to the 500 to 1,000 people. You're okay with the workshop with 20 or 30, but now you're asked to speak at a conference. And for that, many people get really scared. How do you speak to a large audience? You know how to reach me. I welcome your feedback, any comments, peter@peterdew.com.au. So remember, thank you for participating. Thank you for joining. So remember, know your venue well, arrive early, know who's in the room and their expectations, ensure your audio visual equipment's working, have a backup plan. follow up afterwards. It keeps the connection, the rapport going. Communicate details with your audience. Make it easy for them to arrive, to park, to find the venue. Manage your own energy, your own voice. Stay hydrated. Stick to your time and use support materials as required. My name is Peter Dew, public speaking trainer and coach, and I wish you well as you go out there and have conversations confidently and effectively with your communities, with your teams, with your clients. Bye.